All right, everybody. We are here again to talk about some Wheel of Time. We're talking about part two of basically Crossroads of Twilight, which is one of the sloggiest books in the series.
Hmm.
I think this section of the book that we're talking about is probably the definition of slog. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, and
Mm,
there's only really two characters that are covered in this section of the book, but it's a lot of political maneuvering and really stuff that dives into the nuance of Egwene and Elaine um, as leaders. So we have Elaine, who's the leader of Camelin, and then Egwene, who's the Armelin seat. And there's just a lot of political maneuvering behind both of their um, leadership roles. I know in this it goes Elaine and then Egwene, so I guess we'll just
mm.
talk about it in that order.
Yeah.
Um, so Elaine as the leader, well, she's not even really the leader yet. There's still kind of a
Well, but
succession.
yeah, there is, and that's one of the things that's cool, right? We get the Andor succession war, and like she can't just walk into it; she has to earn it. The Dragon Reborn can't just give her Camlin, can't just give her Andor, and so, but obviously now Camlin's under siege, and
Right.
so it's like One of the things I like about this, because remember, I don't really see a slog the same way some people do, but one of the things I love about these chapters is there's, as you said, politics, but also logistics, right? So
Yes.
one of the things we have here is like she's in a place outside Camlin because she can travel, but there's no men anymore because they've sent everyone into Camlin and they're basically recruiting via Gateway. So imagine sieges in the Middle Ages if they could have popped out and grabbed extra men in whenever they needed. And so she has this major advantage over her enemies, but she can't use the one power to kill them. And so she's got and also it's important to remember that her enemies are people she hopes will be her subjects in the future. So just slaughtering them is not what she wants to do. So I think
Mhm.
that's really interesting. And I want to ask you about this. The major danger goes off because remember they're like linked to Rand now, so they know Rand's in danger. We
Mhm.
know because it happened in the last book that he's about to do the cleansing.
Right.
They don't. They just know he's in danger because Rand's kept it super secret. Doesn't even tell Avienda till it's basically happening. Not Avienda, Nynaeve, who does it with him. So, what do you think? Should they have just gone to his rescue, or do you think it's quite realistic that they don't?
Well, Avienda put it plainly that it's probably not a good idea to go out there because they don't know what's going on. And
Mm,
even though Elaine had prophesized that her children were going to survive and be healthy, that
yeah,
doesn't mean that her intervention could have caused
serious issues.
Rand some problems or somebody else to die. So, um, and plus, Avienda might have had some insight due to her training as a wise one and having to go through,
The
the
rings,
gates, the
yeah.
rings.
And like it is true that we know that when people pop up suddenly in front of Rand these days, they tend to get bail fired and
Yeah, so it's
and
not a good
death gated.
idea.
But
Yeah.
it's just anyway. I just wanted to throw it out because one of the things I like about this is it shows two people who have a well, I don't. It isn't a directly romantic relationship. It's more like a friendship. The relationship between, even though they're both sister wives, there is a great friendship between them, and they are really close. They care about each other deeply, and it's great to see that relationship working as a counsel relationship as well as a friend relationship.
Mhm.
And Avienda is this fiery, redheaded warrior, but she does something that I wish characters would do in other books. And sometimes people say that RJ isn't quite the modern author, and they wish his female characters were better. Sometimes I hear this argument from people. And one of the things I'd like to say here is that Avienda does something that we often are screaming at characters to do in TV shows, which is just be sensible. Just be sensible. And she is. She goes, let's think this through. Do we randomly just charge off to the rescue? Maybe he doesn't want that. Maybe if he wanted us, he'd have told us. Maybe there's a reason he hasn't told us what this incredibly dangerous thing that he's doing is. Maybe we should just trust him. And I'm like, yes, positive relationship. This is how I want a wife and a husband to act. Is, yes, I care about you, I'm worried for you, but actually I trust you as well. And I'm not just going to immediately tromp in on your business. Love that. And I just think it needs underlining. My favorite part of the chapter.
So that is your favorite part. Okay.
Of this chapter, the very first chapter. It's not my favorite part of all 10 chapters, but it's my favorite part of the early bit, is that characterization.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that is definitely it's a more notable part of the chapter because it concerns the events of the last book, which were pretty game changing.
Absolutely.
So it's funny too because throughout this, she continues to have anxiety about that, and she keeps remarking on it until it's not much of an issue anymore. Once as it's about a day-long ordeal that Rand has to go through, and then once that's over,
it takes forever.
Yeah, her anxiety is tempered at that point. But yeah, Avienda definitely, kind of saved the day because I think if she did show up, it would have been a catastrophe because they were just on that hill looking out for people that shouldn't be there. And if she just kind of showed up, there's no telling what would have happened. So I'm glad they didn't show up as they could have got. I don't know if they would have gotten Bellfire, but they for sure would have probably gotten attacked.
Yeah.
Probably friendly fire, to be honest. So yeah. Elaine. So yes, Elaine is going through a lot. So we have her worries over Rand. She's also fighting to become the leader of Camelin, its next queen. She's dealing with spies.
Yep.
She's also dealing with a major spy that happened to do something that was
supposedly
not
heroic.
Helpful. Yeah, supposedly heroic, but not really helpful to her cause. And
but
a number of different.
It's well disguised, isn't it? Like it looks really good. He charges, leads the men out. He's brave. He manages to secure these men into the siege. I've saved 80 lives. You can see how it isn't just like an obvious mistake, but Elaine shows her cleverness and the fact that she won't be talked over by saying no. Actually, that wasn't wise. And you can see that she doesn't like this guy, but he does have an influence, right? And he's getting more influence by these moves that he's doing.
So, for influence, we're talking about his heroicism and how everyone else views him.
Well, because he saved her, yeah.
He's could be the father of her child.
Yeah. So he supposedly saved her, right? Supposedly, like bodyguard stuff, which is how he presumably got his job, everyone thinks. And she, even though she doesn't like him as a person, she's keeping around to allow people to believe that they're maybe having an affair and that he got promoted because basically he's sleeping with her, because she'd rather people think she's a slut than that they believe that she's carrying the son of the Dragon Reborn, which would put her in far, and the children in far more danger. And it just shows that Elaine is less bothered about herself than she is about her children. And she's quite prepared for people to think bad things of her if it protects her children, which is amazing, right? That's fantastic. Really shows that even though she does care about appearances, she cares about things like the lives of her children far more, even though she has to do something a little bit disgusting to allow that, like tolerate this scum near her. But of course, now he's abusing that position and using it to gather more public support. So in the eyes of the public, I bet they think he is a freaking stud. Like, he is banging the princess. He's saving her life. He's going out and rescuing people. This guy is the meaning of bad boy. And I bet in the populace of Camlin, they all think he's amazing, which is dangerous to Elaine. So well set up by Jordan to give us this person who we know is bad, who Elaine's not stupid enough to think is perfect. So I like that as well. That, like, they're not stupid. They know he's not good, or he's not, like, perfect, even if they don't know the whole truth. So we can still respect Elaine, but she can't now get rid of this guy, and we know he's a threat. And so it's like there's a feeling of tension building every time he gets more and more popularity, more and more power. And so I think that's a good move to build up tension in these slower chapters.
Right. One of the more interesting things I found about her section is the part where we finally get to meet these seats that are supporting her.
Supposedly.
Yeah. And they're basically all children. So I think this is probably designed to give us some type of anxiety about her having actual support moving forward. So because we just see a bunch of kids, it's almost like, it looks like the only people who are supporting her are the people that aren't really taken seriously. Which makes it seem like, okay, so if people who aren't taking serious, who are supporting her, that means maybe they're not taking her seriously as well. So she gets, I think after the meeting, she seems to be upset that it's only kids that are come to support her.
Yeah, and one of the problems is, you know, they're sent. They are technically high seats, but it suggests to Elaine a little bit that they might be, like, if things go wrong, that, like, their houses will be able to say, oh, well, they were just kids, they didn't really know what they were doing. And so, whereas if they'd fully committed, like with the older people and the guardians had come with them, or the parents, like one of them literally, like, abdicates a couple of weeks before to the son or the daughter so that they can be the high seat. It does look like, oh. And so, yeah, it definitely means that her position is not as strong as it could. And remember, the people that were saved who wanted to come into the siege by Mellar were Lord Luan's men. And Lord Luan had refused to side with Rand when Rand was in Camlin. He'd refused to commit to Elaine. He said he'd rather commit to Dylan. And so it's like, he'd be a really good supporter. He was a big supporter of her mother, but her mother obviously burnt all those bridges with Gabrielle. And so, and obviously they still don't really know who Gabrielle was, and they don't understand about the power and all this jazz. So it's very, very messy still. Very messy. And that's one of the things that this adds to, is how, when you're in the right place and you are the right person, but you can't back it up. And this is very like the English Civil War, with the idea of when the War of the Roses, when it's like controlling someone's children is a little bit like controlling them, but it isn't quite like controlling them. And that political maneuvering can be very subtle. And so I love all of that. Again, it's not the same as the cleansing of the taint, but it's well thought through, and you can see that Jordan was a student of history, and he understood how medieval political maneuvering would work.
Right. It also seemed like there are definitely some immaturities going on in that discussion. Like, I think one of the seats was straight out, like, insulting her.
Like a brat.
One of the, yeah, like
one of the girls.
Yeah, one of the girls. I think there was like a really young child there, like
there's one who's like
8
12.
or 9 years old. Yeah, like really young. I was like,
and the boy, one of the boys, like, you will have my sword. And like it just looked like he was pretending to be his dad kind of thing. And she's just like, oh, really? And she tries very hard, like, not to grin at him and pat him on the head condescendingly. And you remember, like, Elaine's only like what 20 years old herself, 21,
Yeah,
something like
she's
this.
not.
She's not some old woman, but she sees them as like kids.
Right, right. So yeah, she's having these issues regarding the Windfinders as well. There's
Oh,
like a whole chapter about a negotiation that happened.
yeah,
So basically, the wind, the the sea folk are actually
pretty
conducting war against the Shanshan,
at
they're
sea.
at sea. So they're one of the major players on the sea folk side has gotten killed in the war.
Yeah,
So
and
this
yeah,
opens up a power vacuum.
actually, because of the way their system works, right?
Right.
Like you have to go up rank by rank by rank by rank. It's almost military, and so if the mistress of the ships is killed, then the next level all get to go for her spot, and whichever one of them goes, that's going to make a space for everyone from the next level to get one of their spots, and all the way down. I think one of the things that needs to be stated here as well is that the Windfinders can use the one power to hurt people.
Right. So
That's
they
important.
can actually fight toe to toe with the Shanshan.
They're not trained to kill like the Shonchan are. Like the Suldam are like just using the one power to like blow the crap out of people. They're not trained like that, but they've never sworn on the oath rod, and so that gives the Athanmir an ability to be effective that the Aes Sedai can't be. And one of the things that's really interesting is that's part of why she's like, I need to keep these Athanmir here in Camlin. Don't go. And so she's prepared to cede quite a lot to keep them.
Mhm.
And people might be thinking, but why? They're nothing but a pain. But they're not just a pain. They are people who can summon gateways, and they are people who can potentially use the one power to fight even humans. And so it's a huge deal. And so they get a huge deal in return. And again,
Mhm.
we see politics. They bargain for a chunk of land. And by the way, this is something the British used to do when the
Mhm.
British were a maritime empire. They would get a port like Hong Kong or Gibraltar or Singapore, and they would make that port British so they could import goods without paying taxes. But anyone else who wanted to come from that country to their town had to pay taxes to them. And so it was a way about the British getting around maritime taxes into places such as China, Asia, and even into Spain. And so you can see again that he's used something historical to inform a very realistic um, fantasy situation. So yeah.
Right. One of the other things too, thinking about those who aren't restricted by the oath rods, I guess this would also apply to any captured demone that they have as well.
Yep.
So
But
talking about Olivia, she's not on the oath rod.
she is not. And we saw did we saw her last book, right? Like kick off
Oh yeah.
in
She's
at the
she's
cleansing.
yeah, she's definitely like ridiculously strong.
Yeah, she can take out a Forsaken. Like she's that kind of power.
Yeah.
Like,
So
do not
yeah,
mess.
their negotiations, so basically what's going on is the person she had originally, because they have a deal. It's like a hard contract that they got to
Oh, it's such a
follow.
big deal.
And because the person that the contract was made with is
Mm.
now dead, these
Mm.
contracts can somewhat be renegotiated, and that's kind of what Elaine does with the new successor to the Athan Mir. So the successor would be the mistress of ships,
Mm.
who is, I don't know what you would call that. Like, is that a military leader or a civilian leader? Or
It's tricky. The Athemir are very tricky, right? So basically, they go very strongly on the idea that on her own ship, the captain is boss, and the captain is always a woman. They have strict gender roles. The men are able to do fighting and they're able to do trading, but they cannot lead on ship. Only women can. And so the it's run like an admiralty, like ranks, like military ranks, but they are more than just a military leader, because even during trading season, the ship is controlled by them. But they tell their trade master, I want to go here, and a wise one listens to her trade master for good deals. And it's all about getting a good deal. But technically, it's that. Then there's the windfinders who work separately. They're technically completely below the ship mistress. However, they are the ones who have the power. So they're very, very influential. It's interesting how the Athemir have kind of kept them down. In every different area, they found a way to control women with the power. And they do it culturally. And so it's really interesting. So it is done in a militaristic style. But remember, the Athemir haven't been at war for, it sounds like, over a century. And yet this very militaristic approach has been kept. But it's I would say it's half military and half political, because there is voting. So it's like a navy, but that does voting. But once you're in, you apparently have dictatorial power. Apparently. Because when they say what they say, their orders have to be followed. It's interesting, when they're in dock, they don't have the same power as they do on sea. And unfortunately, we don't get the full explanation of their culture, because Jordan doesn't really spend much time on their ships at sea. Like, we get very little of that. But that's the implication.
Right. So I know one of the things we're trying to negotiate is so Zaida, I believe, she's the one that's being ascended to the mistress's ships.
Yeah, that's the implication, and I think that was prophesied as well.
Yeah, so because I know the plot of land was a previous negotiation with the previous mistress of ships. In this case, because Zaida can't stay in Camelin, she has to kind of lead the war effort. She has to leave, and she wants to take Windfinders. With her,
because it's for her, because she was the wave mistress, right, of her clan. So not just the top of her ship, the top of her whole clan, but like the opportunity to be the mistress of the ships is the greatest of all roles, right? It's like the ruler of the entire nation, like a queen, if you like. It's a big freaking deal. And so she can't refuse that. Like, there's no way she's going to refuse that. But she wants to go with as much authority as she can for this installation. But obviously they negotiate, don't they? And she gets what she wants, even though she ends up leaving a bunch of, I don't know how many, but she ends up leaving a bunch of Windfinders. Like, Elaine negotiates it. She's like, okay, if that deal's over, let's make a new deal. And and they do, and like the teaching of the Aes Sedai teaching, which is something they do not want to lose, is also up for debate. And they know the Aes Sedai hate that. So she's like, oh, I don't want to lose that. And Elaine slightly uses the time pressure against her. She's like, you really have to go, don't you? She's like, I really do. It's like, so I can then use that to make you give me a bit of what I want. And she successfully does.
Right. So I think out of that exchange, they kind of come away pretty well.
I think it's a win-win.
Yeah. So they still get to continue to be taught, and they get the land. I think there was like some weaselly thing that was happening with the land that's kind of not too much in the Windfinder's favor.
Elaine does not promise them where the land will be precisely.
Okay.
she's like, I just won't put the land right next to the river. So that means they'll have to go across or land to get to their land, which will obviously stop them doing the tax break thing, which is what they're hoping to
Oh,
do.
so it kind of like invalidates that deal
Yeah,
a little bit.
but they don't realize that she's done that yet.
Mm,
And we never see them find out.
right.
When they do, I'm sure they'll be screaming.
That's
But by
that's
that
pretty
point,
messed up.
Andor probably will have dragons, if you know what I mean.
True, true. So, I
Yeah.
think basically she is only going to send one Aes Sedai teacher. That's it.
Yeah.
Just one.
And not her.
Not her. I think they really wanted Nynaeve.
Yeah.
Because I think Marillilla was doing most of the teaching, but the Windfinders were complaining because they wanted Nynaeve to be more involved with the teaching. But she's busy right
Well,
now.
she is gone. Like Rand has her.
Yeah, she's busy. She can't be gotten to at the moment. So they still get at least one teacher. They get Marillilla, and they do leave some Windfinders for what is explained as gateway duty. So, which probably will be more than just gateway duty, but um, that's kind of the bargain that they ended up coming away with. Um, in Elaine's section, we do get a first person account from Hanlon. Did you want to talk about that?
The bad guy.
Yes, the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah, when he goes to see the
Shane, or what was her name?
yeah, Shine. So is that in this section? Oh my goodness, I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, it's in the middle of her
So
section.
yeah, because we find that there's that Lady Shine is actually like within the city and is like bad, like that basically that she's black, that she's a dark friend, sorry, and that she has serious forces, and it's also confirmation of just how bad he is, right?
Right. Yeah, we get to see how his mind works and how he thinks.
Yeah,
And
and
he is
he's
not a good
pretty.
person. He's
No,
pretty bad.
he is really bad. He is everything that you are not supposed to like. and he's also like in his own head, we can also see that he is like arrogant and misogynistic
Mhm.
and like just obsessed with himself. And like, but he also like he's perverse as well, isn't he? Like he's like he wants he he's like he wants to have everything. He wants to
Right.
like anyone who's above him. He doesn't like but he wants Elaine, but like purely on like not just purely on a sexual level, but also on a power level. He believes that his service to the dark is going to promise him all these things. Now we get on the heads of a few dark friends over the series of the books, but not many, not many. And
No.
but like because we get a little bit of Padden Fane, but he's just insane by the time we get to see inside his brain.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm thinking of Jakim Carradine and Dolan. Both of them, we see a level of arrogance, a level of belief that I am owed more, and
Mhm.
and in most cases, we know they're probably not going to get it. Like
Right.
we, the reader, are like, "Oh, you've been lied to, buddy. You've been lied to." And so one of the things we see here is that, like, how do I put this? One of the things I love about Jordan's books, especially when I was reading them at the time and the future books weren't out, is that one of the big things was guess who's a dark friend,
Mhm.
right? Because we didn't know. Like there was no, like the wiki was not yet finished, so anyone could be a dark friend. Heck, even like apart from Matt Perrin and Rand, like almost anyone was up for grabs if you hadn't had a POV of them. And so we're like, oh, it could be this person, it could be this person, and all these sort of suggestions. And so to have someone like straight up confirmed evil, And to have those reveals was intense. But one of the things that was cool is we're constantly thinking about the good guys being betrayed, but you realize once you're in the Dark Friends' heads, they're terrified of everyone.
Right.
Even their own team. He comes in, he's like, "Oh, you're definitely on my team. I really am suspicious of you then." And so I think that's one of the things that shows that once you've chosen that side, that you basically have to suspect literally everybody that you could possibly suspect because it's just so bad. So yeah, one of the things also that's interesting is that, like, I don't think Cheyenne like has any powers, right?
No, she's
Like,
not. She's not
she's like a
a
minor
user.
noble, but the interesting thing is, like, she's more they have to do what she says, even though she's basically what I'm saying is it shows that the hierarchy amongst the Dark Friends overrules other hierarchies. Like, if you're a servant but you're a higher Dark Friend, you can order around a noble. Yeah. Cheyenne's doing things, and something that's important. Is this where we find? I can't remember this chapter very well. Is this where does he find out that Falion's there? Is he?
Yes,
he being
Fallon
right?
is there.
Because eventually, like, part of Falion's punishment is him, right? That basically they make this Aes Sedai his bitch, basically.
Right.
Not because they like him, but deliberately to humiliate and put her in her place. So she's got the power, but she's underneath David and Cheyenne, who can like punish her, and like that can't happen, can it? In the Dark Friends, it can, and like, again, it's a very good way of Robert Jordan showing us just how dirty and underhanded they are. Do they give him the mission to free the Damned at this part? I can't remember.
At this point, I don't believe so. That
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's later on something that I don't think he ever
Actually,
really
you
does
know
it.
what? Yeah, you're right. He's tasked to free Suldam.
Yeah. Now the thing about that is, right? Like, what's the word? Like, it's like saying free a nuclear bomb, right? It's like they've got nukes. Let's blow their own nukes up. It's that kind of thing. That's all I was going to say, is that, like, the idea is you've got Damne and you're not getting rid of them, and you've got Suldam and you're not getting rid of them. It's like keeping an incredibly dangerous weapon. And so getting him to do that is potentially like going in and setting off someone's own nukes to kill them. Anyway, I don't think it ever really happens, but I think that's what Jordan was wanting us to think. Blow up the powder magazine kind of move.
Right. I know. Getting into David's head, he's afraid of everybody.
Yeah.
Even his own colleagues.
Yeah.
I know that basically everybody that he meets in this house, he vows to kill at some point.
And they're on his side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that, and he also believes the man that he killed in the very beginning of this chapter was sent by them.
Oh, yeah, don't they try and rob him? Or at least, no, it's made to look like a robbery.
Right. Like, we don't even know for sure at this point what happened, if it was a footpad or if it was an assassin. But he believes it's an assassin, and he believes
he's probably right.
Yeah, he believes they were sent by somebody in the Dark Friend house.
The people trying to kill me are all on my side.
Right.
That's exactly my point about, like, how the good guys are worried about betrayal, but the bad guys are worried about betrayal from everyone. There is no safe place for them. There's no.
Yeah, they don't trust anybody. There's no trust amongst Dark Friends at all.
No, absolutely not. And like that's a comment by Jordan, isn't it? Like, because it can be bad for you. You can be the Dragon Reborn. You can be worried about your sanity. You can be worried about the fact that people have racial hatred for you or religious hatred. But the thing is, you should all have some people who are your people, where you can be safe, a home to go to, even if work is horrible, even if, like, you're at war, you should be able to go back to your fort. The Dark Friends can't go anywhere because they carry their betrayal with them.
All right. So one of
Ugh.
the things before we get to Egwene's half, I want to just
Mhm.
talk about there was a POV of one of the besiegers,
Oh,
and
I can't
um,
remember it. Go on.
oh, you don't remember?
No.
So it's a POV of one of the besiegers, and they are also having some political issues within their own camp.
Right.
And by at the end of it, the besieger vows to kill the leader of that movement. So there's like all kinds of like, okay, so we got the dark friends vowing to kill each other, and then on the besieger side, um one of the minor nobles wants to kill like the person who's kind of heading up the siege. So it's he's kind of showing that okay, these two camps are super unstable right now.
Yeah.
They're not like
Is
unified.
this the one who's I can't remember her name. It starts with an E. The one who's betrothed to a psycho. It's like
Oh,
an old
yeah.
man who's lost his mind, but he's
Yeah,
super
there's an old
powerful.
yeah, there's an old dude who's like a lecher,
But he's
and
totally powerful. So like she needs his men.
yeah,
Something
it's
like
it's
that.
that guy.
I
Yeah.
found that hilarious. I shouldn't. That's obviously horrific.
Well, it's
But like,
kinda she's not a good person either because she kinda sacrificed, like, I don't know
yeah,
if it
oh,
was, like, one of her friends or servants or something
mm,
like that to the crazy guy.
yeah, yeah, and she's totally deliberately doing it to get his men, right? To get his
Right.
votes and his power. And she's clearly intending to when when this
Yeah,
is
she wants
over.
to kill him, basically. She
But
wants to
like,
kill him and I think
mm,
the main person who's leading it. Yeah.
Aramilla's the main threat to
Y
Elaine, even though
yeah.
she's a bit of a puppet, really.
Yeah, she wants to kill Aramilla as well, so
Ah, I totally forgot about that. I totally forgot about
well,
that.
it's
But
just
now
like one little POV that
they
sprinkle
chuck
in
in.
there. Yeah.
Ah.
Um, so
No one's
yeah,
happy. No one's happy. No, none of the sides are good.
no.
Everyone's backstabbing each other to the max.
Yeah, that's what I meant by, man, this is like a super political section of the book where you
Yeah.
just have everyone wants to backstab each other and outmaneuver, each other. Um, now did you want to go ahead and move into the Egwene territory and what's
Yeah. Okay.
happening with her?
And actually, just
So
before we move to Egwene, one last thing before we go off to Elaine, because I think it touches on Egwene,
sure.
is that one of the things Elaine really wishes is that she either had one of her brothers or Garth Bryn, and she has neither.
Right.
Yeah,
True.
and like Garth, as we know, is with um
Egwene
uh Egwene, yeah, and obviously her brother will also later be involved
isn't
with
with
Egwene, and like she's like all the people that she wishes that she had, who she did have at the beginning in book one. Now, because of her choices and theirs, they've all and what happened with Morgaz, they've all gone their different ways, and it's just interesting that the only men that she really wants around are all with Egwene. Anyway, moving
and
to
it's
Egwene.
it's interesting too because of what's going on, it's almost like her brother should be obligated to return and
And they don't.
help her out. Yeah. They're like nowhere to
Yet
be seen.
and they've sworn to her, like especially like her not Galad, but her other Gawain
Go
has
on.
sworn like he had to do it at like her birth practically, like make a pledge that he would be her. They have a word for it, um, like her sword or whatever. And so the fact he isn't shows that he's in a way had a fall of his own, but also he doesn't really know what's going on, does he? We know that she doesn't know that, but
Right.
like Aleda's hiding information from him
Mhm.
because she's worried about what he and the younglings, I want
The
to say
younglings,
younglings,
yeah.
the younglings might do, because actually she's kind of wouldn't mind if they had an accident because they're more
Yeah,
powerful
that's
than she
that's
thought,
yeah. She is not trusting of the younglings at all.
even though they helped her get into power.
Right. I think it's probably has to do with if Elaine recalled the younglings and
Mm.
whether or not the younglings, but at least her brother. But even if she recalled her brother And does he have enough power to sway the younglings to
Oh, he
follow
definitely
him?
does.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things is she's realized that they are loyal to him, and that he's become dissatisfied. Like, remember, they made that decision to stop the rescue of Swan, like on a flip. You know, the warder trainers were coming in, and they chose to fight them. But that was on a moment's edge. It could have gone either way. But then once they'd done that, they were stuck on one side. But in the aftermath, seeing what Aleida has become, Gawain's like regretting some of those decisions, and she knows it. But he's a military leader with a military team, and she can't just have him executed because he helped put her in power. So he's a problem. She needs to go away, but she can't just go, I murder you from on high. So really, really interesting. And if he finds out that Elaine is in need, goes to her and becomes Captain Commander of Andor, woo, that could break Andor from the White Tower forever.
Yeah, I believe that's kind of what would have happened. He would have became like the next Gareth Bryn.
He certainly would. Like, that's what he was born to become.
Right.
Yeah, because she obviously wasn't going to marry her brother, so she would marry a noble who would have become the king. Well, the queen consort. But clearly her brother was always intended to be her captain commander.
Yeah.
And I like I say, I think he officially does like when they were kids, he made like an oath that he would be the one. Like it was that serious for them. Anyway.
So yeah, Egwene, she's in Tarvalin. Well, not in Tarvalin, but outside of Tarvalin.
Yeah.
So it's two sieges. She's conducting this siege, and Elaine is being besieged.
Yes.
So this siege, it's interesting because it has a quite different flavor, because we know that Elaine's able to kind of bypass the siege because she has the power to use gateways.
But that could go wrong, right? That's what she says. Like, if we all suddenly appear, we're in bottlenecks and we can't like hold it. But yeah, she knows it's a trick, but it's a trick you can only use once. Once they know you can do it, and little does she know. But Alviarin already has gateways, for example.
Right, she knows the gateways, but Alviarin's gateways aren't public, and they're not public to the Aes Sedai because
so she doesn't want to reveal that move, because once she does, they're not besieged anymore. They can just gateway out and get infinite food, like Elaine is doing.
Right. So they could have the power, but it's not public. So at this point, on the surface, Aleida doesn't have a way in or out. However, they're not touching the ships entering and exiting the Tarvalin, so it's not much of a siege. It's just kind of a threat that's kind of outside of the walls of Tarvalin. Because they're not sieging any of the ships coming in. They're allowing them free access. And I don't know what the reasoning behind that was. But I think it was that they didn't have a practical way to stop the ships coming in and out.
No, you can't. Like, Tarvalon is made to be invincible, right? The city is perfect. It's in this island in the middle of the river going up both sides of it. So you can't easily blockade it. For Garth Bryn to blockade it, he would have to take an entire fleet of ships downriver and sink them to blockade it. And they just can't do it. And they have the chain, so they can raise the chain to stop the ships getting close, enemy ships, and then lower it to let their ships in. So it's really, really difficult to stop Tarvalon getting supplies, but they have to if they're going to starve them out. And they also have to block or besiege all 4 bridges into the city. So they can't even have all their army together. So their army is split up on 2 different sides of this massive river. And even on the different sides of the river, it's split up on the 2 edges of these freaking massive bridges. And food's still coming in via the river anyway. And so they have to try and solve this problem. And they come up with a pretty inventive solution.
Right. And what was the solution?
So Egwene has more power with Earth than almost any of the other women.
Right.
And thanks to, I want to say, Elaine, they've discovered how to make, and I'm going to mispronounce this, Kulendar?
Quayandar.
There's someone who's listened to the audiobooks. Quayandar, the Heartstone, the basically invincible substance that no matter how much you try and break it, just makes it tougher. So what she proposes when she sees the change, she's like, I can turn a disadvantage into an advantage. So her suggestion is that they will take people who can do that. So I think it's her and Leanne are the best at doing it, and they're going to go out under cover of night, distract them with attacks, and then try and, while the chains are raised, turn them into Heartstone, which would make them virtually invincible. And they couldn't be unwound, right? They can't be destroyed. Nothing can possibly be done. They will literally block the river forever. And so it's a clever plan. It's a very clever plan. Interestingly, I wanted to know, what do you think about the role of Delana? Not just in this section, but throughout. Like the gray one, the one who's been very supportive of Elaine in her new role, even though she's young, but also has been negotiating with Romana and Lelaine, and also is now suggesting that they negotiate with the main tower as well.
Well, isn't Delana, is she a plant?
She is black Aja.
Oh, she's
black
black.
as they get. And her secretary is Halima.
Oh, well, it makes all the sense in the world.
And she's very kind, and Egwene loves her because she lends her secretary to help her get rid of headaches.
And, the fake headaches.
She's also like been very supportive, and she plays everyone a little bit. Like Romana thinks she's reliable, Lelaine thinks she's reliable, Egwene thinks she's kind of reliable, and she's also, as a Grey, saying we should talk to the tower and reunite. So what do you think of the Delana role, Dusty?
Well, Delana, I knew there was something up with her.
Yeah.
Because one, she's getting bossed around by Halima.
Yeah.
So if she's getting bossed around by Halima, and we know that Halima for sure is, at this point, it's been revealed that Halima is.
Nope.
No, it hasn't
we don't
been?
know.
Okay.
We have a feeling that Halima might be a little dodgy, but Egwene loves her, and we only very rarely see Halima lose her cool. It's actually only now in these later chapters that like Egwene sends Halima away.
Right.
She's
she
like, "Oh, but
dismissed.
you need me," and she's like, "No, off." And she's like, "Oh, you'll regret this." And then as she goes, she gets this terrible headache, and we're like, "That's dodgy as heck." That is so dodgy. And so, but they haven't like outright proved that she's bad news. We've not had a POV from Delana yet, so we don't know. But there's definitely in the early books. I mean, these people have been around for 3 books now, maybe 4. Because like Delana was on the she's one of the sitters for the Saladar Aes Sedai. And so we're only just now realizing that these people are trouble. And like one of the ways we realize they're trouble is what her other maids all go missing.
Right.
and like, they were really nice. But Halima's like, no, you need me, only me. And we're like, well, that's not creepy at all. Anyway, welcome, Andrew.
Andrew's lumberjacking right now.
Oh yeah,
Jacking that lumber.
Yeah, he's slogging through those heavy trees.
Yeah, just like this book.
I'm saying that I'm enjoying it, but yeah, Dusty's like, this is the sloggiest of the slog. Heavy politics and maneuvering.
It is the sloggiest of the slog. Yeah.
I agree.
Yep.
It's super political and not a whole bunch of punching going on.
Yes,
Yeah.
I like the
What, are
punching.
you saying that like lies, maneuvering, political badgering, slightly annoying discourse, and weevils and logistics don't delight you? What is wrong
No,
with you
the
people?
political scheming does. All the rest of that stuff doesn't really.
I love it when they come with the weevils. They're like, this grain's all knackered. And I'm like, all the readers are going, and we don't care. But for a besieging army, it's like, this is a disaster. I
Right.
love that. Weevils. I'll never forget the weevils. I know they had lots of problems, but it's the weevils I remember.
You guys were just talking about Delana,
Yeah.
Yes.
and she's a black Adja,
Yep.
but we don't know that at this point yet in the series.
We've got several things now that show that she's at least dodgy. Because one of the things we do know is that Romana, Lelaine, and Egwene all think she's their person.
Right.
So, and we also know that Halima, we've seen a couple of times where Halima, who's her secretary, seems to be in charge of her, which is also a bit bizarre, considering she's a powerful Aes Sedai and she's a secretary. So we've had a feeling for a while that something is off, but no, nothing. We don't know that. We can surmise it because we're clever readers. Look at us being smart.
Yeah, easy to know in hindsight. Yeah.
Well, also like
And
you know when you've read a Stephen King book.
Oh
And
yeah,
you're
of
like,
course.
oh, this person's going to end up being really bad. I don't know how,
Yeah.
but really bad. And they're going to be horrific and there's going to be an awful death. And
Oh
when
yeah.
you've read a Robert Jordan book, you're like, there's bound to be traitors all over the place.
Yeah.
This looks like a Robert Jordan traitory person. It's coming up. Anyway, you were saying, Andrew, sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, I was just going to say, I usually don't describe someone as dodgy because I'm Canadian, but people can be suspicious for sure.
Is dodgy got a connotation?
I think that's more of a British thing, isn't it?
Oh yeah. All right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I'm very British, so that's absolutely. So at least it didn't have a terrible connotation I wasn't aware of. It's just British.
Oh yeah, no, nothing wrong with that.
Okay. Good.
Well, what part of the book are you guys on now, by the way?
The second part of the second half.
Okay.
So maybe 15 or 16, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be, we're basically talking about like 15 through 20, 16 through 20.
Okay.
Which is all Egwene. So it's all about the siege on Tarvalin and the political machinations that are happening within the Aes Sedai.
Okay.
So I know there's also a couple issues too with the overzealous student that she almost got expelled. Yeah, she almost got expelled or something.
I hate Nicola. She's
because
such
she
an
thinks she's
character.
better than everybody else.
Oh, she's just such a little whinging child. I wanted her to like fall off a cliff. I'm not gonna lie. I know like she's not like evil, but I just hate her. I hate everything about her.
That's one of those characters that I don't remember very well.
She's just pointless and annoying. But she was. But I think Robert Jordan must have met some overly gifted youngsters in his life, you know, who thought they could tell him what to do. And he probably just thought, you're evil, stupid swines. I'm going to put you in a book. Because she has like those prophecies, doesn't she? I can't remember. She has an ability. It's foresight or something.
Foretelling, but it's not clear whether her foretelling is fake or not. Because the only person who has actually seen her foretell is like her partner in crime. So nobody outside of their little group has seen her actually foretell. And this is,
I think she does.
Is Elida like a true foreteller as well, or is she kind of like faking it?
No, we know Elida is. Because
so she's a
we
true
see her have one. But the cool thing about Elida, or the thing that's amusing about her is that, like, just like in a Greek tragedy, she makes true foretellings and then immediately misinterprets them. You know, she immediately assumes that means the dragon reborn will kneel at my feet and know my wrath. And she's like, no, it said the Amaranth seat, and that won't be you, darling. That won't be you.
Yeah. So one of the you mentioned the Quendiar.
Yeah, the plan.
They're also using that for economic reasons, right? As
Oh
well.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're trying to
funding them.
Yeah, they're trying to sweatshop some Quendiar. And I think Nicola was on part of that team.
Yeah, because she's one of the ones who's good at it.
She's good at it, but even then, like, she's a fraction as good as Egwene is. Like, Egwene could turn something into Quendiar like within seconds, and it could take other Aes Sedai like half a day or longer to do it.
Remember, Egwene is particularly good with the male weaves, not the male weaves, wrong word. In the five powers, earth, fire, wind, water, spirit, it isn't that water and air are women's and fire and earth are men's, but typically they've noticed that men tend to be stronger in things like fire and earth, and women tend to be stronger in wind and air. But Egwene is an exception. She is very, very good at earth. And they remark it even early in the books, even when she's like a novice. They're like, wow, you're really good at earth. And so she is particularly good at this skill. I think Elaine is really good at it as well. Like, she's the one who figures it out. And they notice that Leanne's really good, and Matt's sister, I can't remember her name. I'm going to be honest. Bode is actually really good as well. But none of them are as good as her, as Egwene. And obviously she doesn't have Elaine to hand. So that's one of the reasons they can't do the plan. That's one of the reasons they have to keep doing the siege, because she needs them to be good enough to pull the plan off, to be able to do it quickly. And people like Nicola not wanting to practice don't help.
Right.
I wonder if the reason that men or male channelers tend to be better with elements like fire are that they're, you could kind of say it's more associated with aggression and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I know I always get these mixed up, but the Sidar and Sidene, the male half of the power is one that you typically are more aggressive with, and the female side you have to have more of a feeling of embracing it
and surrendering to it.
Yeah. So I wonder if that's why that tends to be the case with male versus female channelers.
Yeah, and you can even say that partially with the elements themselves, right? If you're in the river and you surrender to it, the river just takes you along, right? Don't fight the flow, go with the flow. Same with the wind, right? Don't try and stop the wind, use the wind, go with it, let it push you, let it fill your sails. Whereas with fire, if you just let fire do whatever it wants to do, you're dead, right? You must control it, you must master it. And like with the earth, when you think about farming, or you think about mining, or anything that we do with the ground, it's like inflict yourself upon it, mold it to your will, get the clay and force it into the shape you want. And he's definitely going with those themes, isn't he? Robert Jordan, I mean, he give him poetic license. I absolutely think what you just said there, Andrew, is spot on. I think that's exactly what he was going for.
Okay. And but remind me, by the way, which one is Sidar and which one's Sidene?
Sidar is the female, Sidene is the male.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry, slog centrist. Tangent.
So there is some event that kind of I don't know what you want to call it, but just kind of smashes into Aes Sedai ideology. And that would be kind of the report of what happened at Shadow Lorgoth.
Oh. Well, that just messes up everything, right? Like, that's what the whole first part of this book's about. It's like everyone going, oh my goodness, the world just changed.
Right.
Like, completely. Like, something that we didn't... Like, imagine what would happen in Earth if we suddenly lost half of all gravity, like imagine how that would change so much of everything that we do that would have to alter like that. Or if
All
suddenly
manufacturing processes would be utterly broken.
like think about like transport, like trains wouldn't stay on rails because they're very carefully physically engineered, like for corners and stuff, based on their weight, and all of our weights would just change overnight. Our ability to actually, like, if you think about energy, anyway, the point is it's something that we think, yeah, but that can never ever change. That's why I use gravity, because it's something that can never ever ever change. It's not like the United States or Europe not being a thing. It's something that we believe is impossible to change. That's what's happened here in Randland. Something that has always been, as far as they're aware, something that can never ever be changed, as far as they're aware, is now just gone, just completely changed, and it was done by a person. That must be like mind-boggling. And I think that's one of the reasons Jordan spends half of this book talking about people reacting to that maneuver and just going, oh my goodness. Anyway, what were you going to say? How does it change the Aes Sedai, Dusty?
Well, they finally got somebody over there to investigate and report back about what happened. So the Aes Sedai find out that there's a 3-mile hole where Shadow Logos used to be. They also come to the conclusion that it was a man that channeled that. So in this instance, they're saying that how do we counter such huge power differential? They know that if they were to go into their 13 strong circles, they would not be able to amass that type of power.
No way.
So during this meeting, one of the Aes Sedai suggests that they start making circles with men, and then we have like a shouting contest and a fainting matches and whatever else you get, because they realize that they're not strong enough to face that type of power with their own power. And they know that at this point in time, using men in their circles might be able to get them even more power than they had before.
Well, we know it definitely would, because if men are in the circles, you can have 2 full circles joined.
Right. So they're over the suggestion.
I mean, you can't. Can you have it be the case that if you have a handful of women in a circle, then they can resurrect women who die from channeling?
No.
As happens in the show?
No. Andrew, no. One more time. No. Like, it's even directly like the thing that in the books,
even Rand can't do it. Yeah, even Rand can't do it.
Rand almost does it, doesn't he? In one of the books,
yeah.
He makes the point. Jordan makes the point. He gets that kid, and he's like puppeting it. Like, it's not really alive, but he's making it move as if it were. And they're just like, "No, Rand, that is super creepy." Like, what you're doing.
I hope they do that in the show.
Oh no,
I want to see that.
Yeah, so, that'd be creepy.
It infuriates me that they just decided in the show that resurrection via the power is a thing, and it can just be done by someone with a lot of gift. No, absolutely not. Don't do that. Oh wait, you already did. Damn it.
I still like Rings of Power less, but the final episode of the season 1 of the Wheel of Time show was very disappointing.
It was, but I mean, the thing that annoys me more about, like, I actually don't have much of a problem with most of that show. Like, it's okay. They had to skip stuff out, but the end bit was the use of the power. Just could have been done so much better. But they wanted to have a circle of girls be the boss moment, and so but they had to show
there are plenty of girl boss moments throughout the series that actually are in the books.
Yeah, but they just couldn't have Rand do it, because that would have been like what happens in the book. So that would be pointless. But anyway, but I guess they removed the Eye of the World, so really they shouldn't have had anyone do it. They should have massively changed. They shouldn't have had the army of Trollocs. They should have had a much, much smaller threat. so that it could have been handled in a much, much more reasonable way.
Mhm.
But they didn't want to. Anyway.
I understand why they didn't have the Green Man.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's never properly explained.
And he would have looked like
going
the
back-
Jolly Green Giant.
I want to ask you this, because we've kind of skipped on, but one of the things that's interesting here is that when they all get together, this idea of, oh, if we use men, it's impossible. That actually makes complete sense. Even good people thinking that makes complete sense. Men have been driven mad by this since forever. They don't know it's cleansed. They probably think a Forsaken did this, because what other man would be able to, men and women working together? But there's so many arguments, right? Like, some of them are going, should we use men? Others are going, no. Some are saying, should we talk to the tower? Others are going, hell no. And like, Lelaine and Romanda both seem to know things they shouldn't know. And I think we see here Delana's role, that she is basically leaking secrets right, left, and center. So in secret, Egwene agreed to sort of start chatting with the tower, because they're in a state of war, so she can do that. But they know about it somehow. How did that happen? And so we start seeing it's all falling apart. All of her support base is falling apart over these fractions, over men, over the tower, over internal leadership. And she has, Egwene is revolutionary, right? Or at least evolutionary. She's coming up with ideas like using Kulendar to make money. She's coming up with ideas like declaring war, skipping out novice steps, accelerating people through to full Aes Sedai without the Oath Rod. And she's also suggested that we might remove the oaths and let people retire into the kin, because she's realized that the oaths shorten life. So she is a complete revolutionary, and that scares the hell out of the Aes Sedai. Do you think that the removal of just you personally, Dusty, Andrew, do you think the removal of the oaths is a good idea or a bad idea? Because I don't think that's ever definitively said by Jordan. What do you think?
I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it much, actually.
Well, if they don't want to be an Aes Sedai, then an Aes Sedai is a particular thing.
Okay.
So, and part of that thing that's an Aes Sedai are the oaths.
So, should people be allowed to be channelers and not Aes Sedai?
Right. I think so.
Oh, you see, before these books in Randland, they didn't think so. If you channeled, you had to be an Aes Sedai. I guess what Egwene's saying is exactly that the wise ones don't have to become Aes Sedai, that the Athamir don't have to become Aes Sedai, and that if you want to leave the Aes Sedai after having been in, you can.
Is the idea that...
But that's a threat, right?
Is the idea of them not being able, or I mean, them having to be Aes Sedai, that they're worried that there will be new power factions that challenge the Aes Sedai?
And there definitely will be, right? Because one of the things about Aes Sedai is, one of the reasons the Aes Sedai got set up in the way we see them in the books is because that's why you don't have to enslave them.
Okay.
Right? Because you know they can't use their power as a weapon. But if they can, if you can leave the Aes Sedai and not be bound by those rules, but you still have the power, what then?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Now,
I guess I understand why they did that in the past, but I don't know. Why do you think it's fine for that to change, Dusty? I'm not saying I'm disagreeing with you, but what do you say?
Well, I just think at present time, at this time of the book, most channelers are actually not Aes Sedai.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, so the stigma behind it is not really. It's because I guess the culture has expanded to know about other cultures more explicitly that don't restrict their channelers.
And there are a lot more male channelers, obviously, because of Rand and his Ashaman, right?
and who are not restricted at all, and indeed encouraged to kill. But I guess one of the things that's interesting is, like, the wise ones, for example, are the best argument, because the wise ones are culturally constrained. You know, it's a thing amongst the Aiel that the wise ones don't get involved in war, but they're not controlled by any power, and their culture is enough, right? They're respected, but they haven't taken over.
Not quite, because we do see failings with the Shido.
We do, and we.
Uh-oh. We lost him.
He's frozen in shock.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Frozen explaining a very complex point.
To you, is he frozen like this?
Yeah.
Can you do the Tristram? Yeah, his video froze, and then later his audio froze.
Yeah. Hopefully he'll be back in a minute. Your
audio got cut off for about a minute.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Did he get cut off again?
Seems that way.
Uh-oh. Has he got the circle there?
Oh.
He got booted.
Hopefully he'll be back.
Yeah, he got the boot from the internet, I think, probably.
Yeah. FBI doesn't want him talking about the Aes Sedai. Yeah.
No,
that's an interesting topic. I hadn't really thought about it.
I was just thinking, like, I think the Aes Sedai, they're an important group. They're a group that's trusted by, wetlander leadership to be advisors and things like that. But I don't think, I think in order to be an Aes Sedai, part of that is the oaths. I don't think you can separate those two. Even those who are Aes Sedai that haven't taken the oaths try to behave as if they had taken the oaths.
Okay.
So whenever
I just saw a Tristram message us and said, "Carry on, I'll reboot."
Yeah. So whenever we have our unoathed sisters who Nynaeve, all the Supergirls, they all, for the most part, try to behave as if they have taken the oath.
Okay. So I think I might be a little confused about the idea here. I thought the idea was that you don't have to take the oaths, which means that you can be a channeler without being an Aes Sedai, and you don't have to be an Aes Sedai. But is the idea actually that you can be an Aes Sedai without taking the oaths?
No, I think those who are Aes Sedais who have not taken the oaths are supposed to eventually take them.
Okay.
It's just that the girls who got raised don't have access.
Okay.
To an oath rod at the moment. But even then, they try to behave as if they had taken the oath.
Right.
So I think that is an integral part of being an Aes Sedai. And they're fine as a group, but if you take that away from them, it kind of changes the meaning of what it is to be an Aes Sedai, in my opinion. Because I think that's a pretty integral part of their group.
I absolutely agree. And so I just think, and I don't think Jordan says for sure if that's right or wrong, but it's showing that there's going to be an evolution of some kind. Because, like you say, Dusty, so much has happened. They're never going to go back to a pre-Eye of the World way. Yeah? It's never going to go back.
Mm-hmm. And they even given the option,
retirees I think Egwene
can opt out now. So, if they can retire.
Still massive.
Well, they're not, but when they retire, they're not Aes Sedai anymore. They're like their own thing.
No. Well, she intends to use the kin, doesn't she? She literally, one of Egwene's pen of views, it might not be here, but it's somewhere in this book. Egwene says, or she thinks to herself, but she doesn't dare tell them because she's afraid that they'll revolt. So she's like, I'm going to get this war done, and then I'm going to try and get some changes. And actually, if you look back in the history of our own world, a lot of reformers did exactly that. They waited till they won a big war, and then they could do what they liked. So they used their popularity. And these days, in political terms, when people win landslide victories, that's when they do big political moves, because they need to be sort of guaranteed their power. In the past, we did that with the sword and the gun, and now we do it with heavy voting. But it's just interesting. I think Egwene is a true new revolutionary, and she couldn't have happened so young had it not been for this time of upheaval. And if the tower didn't split, Egwene is not Amerlin's seat, right? Simple as that.
Yep. And unlike a lot of politicians in reality too, these characters actually intend to make changes rather than just say they're going to in their rhetoric and then not actually do it once they're in power.
But don't you think, Andrew, that partially that's because they're so young?
Yeah, probably. I mean, when you're that young, you can be
Makes it believable.
more perhaps naive. Maybe that's the wrong word, but yeah.
Hopeful, maybe?
Yeah.
Like, or like not yet too attached to power?
Yeah, yeah.
Because like, only a year ago, she was a nobody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, she isn't like wedded to being the Amerlin seat. And so if she loses her position to cause this change, is she going to massively care? It sounds like she could probably get over it. And so, but like if you've been king for 20 years, the idea of losing that position is kind of like losing your own identity. And so you hold on extremely tightly to power. And maybe then you go against some of your own original good intentions.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think
Well
we
said.
see that in real life.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
So Dusty,
Are we having a pose off?
If we do, my little arms are going to make you guys look great. So, Dusty, what's the end of this section?
Well, basically, the end of this would be, yes, okay, they're contemplating using men. So, in a rare turn of events, Ramonda and Lalaine actually agree, and that vote comes to a vote, and their vote actually passes. So, they're going to pursue that. So this isn't something that Egwene had anything that she could do, because it was a matter of the sitters passing the vote, and they were able to do that on their own without her input, or even without her influence, because this was like, boom, a decision that she wasn't even thinking about. This is just something that came about because of what they found out about Shadow Logoth. So their next thing that they're going to do is send somebody to the Black Tower. So they're gonna send somebody over there to go ahead and try to
let's hope they do a better job than Aleida. Let's hope they do a better job than Aleida did.
Yeah,
you know,
that was more of her trying to conquer the Black Tower, and this is more of about allying themselves with the Black Tower. As I don't know, I think they're guessing that, okay, this was a big action done by the Forsaken, and we kind of need to coalesce our powers now. And now that we see how powerful the Forsaken are, we need to make sure that all the people on the side of the light are starting to come together now. Even though it was a complete misinterpretation of what happened, because it wasn't the Forsaken who did that; it was Rand. Rand and Nynaeve are the ones who did that. So, yeah, they're kind of like in array, but yeah, they're gonna send somebody out to the Black Tower to try to form an alliance. So they're gonna send an embassy there. I think one thing that happens also before the end of these events is that um, Egwene the Dreamer has some dreams.
Oh, does she have the true dreams? Is this the
Yes,
true
she has a true
dreams?
dream.
Oh, right. Yeah, we definitely need to discuss this. Is this the
Yeah.
bowling?
Yes, the bowling.
I love the bowling. It's one of the dreams I remember.
Matt is bowling, but the pins are people, I believe.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
okay.
something to do with an illuminator. I love that. I just think that's such an interesting image. Just of him going.
Yeah, so
And the idea of cannon. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a foreshadowing of Matt's development here. She also has another true dream where she's saved by she's like fallen off a cliff or something, and then she's saved by someone with a Shan accent.
Mm.
And also she has a dream that indicates that the White Tower will be attacked by the Shan.
Yeah, this because it turns into like she's on like a tall spire and there's a lamp, isn't there? And the raven comes and knocks it. Is it a raven? It's a
Yeah, the
bird of
raven
some
is
kind.
like they're kind of like the representative animal of the
Shan.
Shan. Yeah. So two big things she dreams about. I think that's it. I think it's
Yep.
just the
Does she find out about the assassination then, or is it because she
yeah, the
comes because of
assassination
Halima?
does happen at the end of
Okay.
this section. So there are two that are assassinated by what they feel is Sidene.
Yeah, suffocated with Sidene.
So that would have been Anaya and her warder. Anaya is a blue sitter, right?
Yeah, and a very powerful one. And I like
she was like the former sitter when the house when the White Tower was actually together. She was the blue sitter.
Yeah.
So she's quite a powerful force amongst the blues.
Absolutely.
No, she was the secret leader of the blues, right?
Yeah, the blues leader is a secret person because the blues you all like see. So it's not like the Reds where their like leader is meant to be for other Reds basically more important than the Emerald Seat. It's much more subtle than that because it's blues. But like almost like a spy master kind of thing. And she was very, very important. And it shows that she was very powerful. Previously, we've heard her name mentioned in a favorable way by other blues that we like Moraine. And so her murder is sinister in the extreme. And especially considering she's been killed in her own camp, like in the good guys team. So we know that this is, and we've also known, remember, that other people have died. Like we know when the Shan were freed and they killed the old brown lady who was like watching over them. And so we already know that, yeah. So we basically know that some bad stuff is happening. And one of the things that this is, again, is a hint that someone doesn't want secrets getting out.
Okay.
And guess who just got sent out of the room before this is revealed? Or it's like, I know that Halima doesn't want to leave. She gets sent out the room and then they make that reveal. And I remember reading it and thinking, bet this is about Halima because Halima just got sent out the room and she made a strop about it. And then it's like, oh, something really bad happened. I'm like, but I didn't think Halima murdered them, but I thought, I bet Halima wanted to eavesdrop on this because she's a spy. That's what I was thinking at the time. I didn't realize, of course, that Halima at that point could use Sidene. I was not understanding that, but what I'm saying is the juxtaposition, putting sending the maid out when she wants to stay next to the reveal, even though the two things weren't linked, made me link them because they were next to each other. Yeah.
Yeah. So Anaya's title was First Selector.
Yep.
Which is
the top blue.
Yeah, so I know in the UK, a bow selecta is like a DJ or something like that.
Bow selector. I don't think that's quite the way first selector is meant.
You mean
Yeah.
she's not a DJ? She
No,
doesn't
I'm thinking she's
select
meant,
records?
I'm thinking she is meant to be more like a political figure.
Ah.
You know, like
But
someone who can pick a chief justice or something like that.
yeah, so she was the secret leader
Of the
of the
blue.
Blue Aja, and she got killed. Which makes me think, I wonder if Halima knew that.
Yeah, when you finish the books and you read back, they make it clear that there's multiple things that she could have done to mess up Halima. One, she had knowledge that Halima's backstory would be a lie.
Okay.
So if she revealed her backstory, she could prove that what Halima said she was, she wasn't. And secondly, that she's in favor of the link with the Black Tower, and Halima is quite okay for them to try and reunite with the Ladies Tower because they've already got big influence there with Alvarin, but she does not want them to link with the Black Tower. They're really worried about that. They do not want that to happen. And all of the sitters kind of not being massively against it was a big shock to Halima and Delana, because Delana thought they would all not go for it. And then they suddenly did. Like, no one thought Romana and Lelaine would agree on anything, but they do, despite their misgivings. And she's like, "Oh, we got to act. We got to take these people out." And she was one of the ones who was not afraid of trying it out.
Okay.
Yeah. She's also just a super good dude.
A super good dude.
Maybe not a super good Aes Sedai, like a proper legit, for the light, for unity, reliable, trustworthy woman. So
that reminds me, I was thinking of starting my YouTube videos in a more personal way, and instead of saying hi everyone, since usually only one person at a time is watching a YouTube video, just saying, "Hey buddy, how you doing?"
Hey, one person watching. No, absolutely cool. But yeah, that murder is one of the first times that I was like, because of the way it was right next to when Halima got kicked out, it's one of the first times I thought Halima's involved in all the murders. She's like the spy or whatever.
Yeah, because something was off about her.
Yeah, something's been off about her for a while, but
because most people don't like her. Swan doesn't like her. There's nobody else that actually likes her except that she gets rid of Egwene's headaches.
Yeah.
You know?
And she keeps saying to Egwene, "Tell me what your worries are. Offload to me." And you're like, don't tell her anything.
I'm just here for emotional support, bro. Don't mind me. That's all.
And the thing is, that's exactly what she is, right? No, you're absolutely right. She's like, "I'm your masseuse. Anything you stay in the chair stays in the chair."
Yeah.
Like, creepy. Yeah. But I do think, by the way, Jordan using her as a female, using the male power because she's a reborn male, and not being able to be detected was a little bit of genius. That is
really ingenious, cool. Yeah.
Especially considering he didn't break any of his rules. He told us that the Forsaken could come back. We already had examples of him doing that. We knew Arangar and Osangar were resurrected Forsaken already. We knew this. We knew that they were around. We know that women can't sense Sedin. Like, it was all things we knew. So I give props to Robert Jordan for that particular maneuver. Well
they
played.
They should have this character in the show because it's literally more of a trans person than even possible in our current world.
I guarantee you, Andrew, that if they miss out every other Forsaken in the entire show, the one who is in is Arangar.
Yeah.
For sure. It might not be that she's the same one reborn. Might not be Balthamel or whatever. It could be Ravin. But they will definitely have a male Forsaken die in early seasons and return as Arangar for certain in that role and she will 100% do that. 100%, no doubt.
I think you're right.
It's a good twist.
It is a good twist, which is another reason to use it, right? It'd be stupid not to. It's such a good move.
Yeah, I don't think they're
for
gonna
sure.
bring Balthamel though. I don't think they're gonna bring him in.
Just use one of the more interesting ones, maybe Agenor, and just get rid of Osengar entirely. But I think they should keep Osengar as well because he's the bad guy in the Black Tower. So maybe have two, maybe Ravin. I think they will have Ravin because he's the one who seduces Elaine's mum. I think. Before we go, what do you think? Which Forsaken are getting dropped? So Balthamel, who else?
The one that was a sword fighter who like died with Bellfire like immediately. The one from part 3. The guy who was like
from the Dragon
Is that
Reborn?
his name? Balal? Yeah, him. He's not gonna be in there.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
in the
yeah,
Dragon
yeah.
Reborn, killed immediately.
How many Forsaken do you guys think they're gonna keep in the show?
Probably 7.
8.
7's
7?
usually like the magic
8?
number for like the amount of enemies.
No, 7's are gonna. So Ishmael has to be there. Ishmael has to be
Yeah.
there. I
Yeah.
think they will combine maybe Ravin as like the real bad guy. Samael will disappear. I think Agenor will pretty much disappear. Balthamel will disappear. Asmodan they could use.
I
think
would
they like
it if they
Asmodine
brought him in, yeah.
because he's the one who they have him imprisoned, and TV shows love that. They love the bad guy imprisoned who like tries to get in the head. You know, I'm thinking The Shining. You know, getting in the head of the person who's imprisoned them, and then but Bilal will be gone. I imagine Masana will be gone. I imagine Grendel will be gone. Moghedian will stay.
You think Grendel will be gone?
I do. I think they'll use Lanfear as the super hot.
Oh
one.
yeah.
Oh yeah, they have to keep Lanfear.
Yeah, but what I mean is that Grendel's meant to be super hot as well. So they'll just go, look, let's just have one super hot girl and drop the other. I think Semiraj can be dropped, or Masana, or they'll probably combine the two and just have one with the White Tower. But because they've got Aleda and Alvarin to be the badasses at the White Tower, I don't think Masana is really needed. I bet they can have a Semiraj or a Lanfear character play that role. I think they'll have Lanfear be the Masana.
I think Samael will get dropped.
Samael will be gone. I'm sure. Bilal will be gone. I think the only one of because they all take a country, don't they? Like Samael takes Ilion, Bilal takes Tyr, Ravin takes Andor. Well, they're obviously going to spend more time in Andor. So what they're going to do is just make Bilal and Samael's character traits just go to Ravin.
Okay.
Because they all do a very similar thing.
What about Demon Dread?
You see, Demon Dread, I think
Demon Dread could be rolled into Ishamael or Moradin, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Demon Dread will just play Moradin's role. So, like, basically, Nameless will just be straight up Ishmael. Because Demon Dread isn't present, really, till the end. And that even at the end, he can just be played by Ishmael. So that's what I think. I think Moghedian will be in it. And I think she might have some of Semiraj's traits. Like I don't know
the individual Black. Forsaken anywhere near as well as you guys. So one of the only ones I can remember is Lanfear.
Oh, I hope they keep Moghedian because I want to see like this, the Nynaeve versus Moghedian on screen.
That was pretty cool. Yeah.
And sorry, that's why I think they will keep Moghedian. I think Semiraj's characteristics will go into her.
Okay. She's going to be a torturer also.
Yeah, absolutely. But it makes sense, right? She's the spider. She's the manipulator. And like, she'll be a torturer. But also, I think she'll be black because Semiraj is. And they wouldn't want to eliminate they want, the Forsaken should be diverse. They should look and feel different. Some of them should look older, like Agenor. Some of them should look younger, like Ravin. They should be different skin colors, different tones, and they should be planted in the different cultures. Because That's exactly what the Forsaken were. So if the Forsaken all looked the same, it would be stupid. Like the whole point of that is sensible. And also they can use the Mask of Mirrors. So they can literally look however they want. And but I just think, like, rather than get rid of them, like I'm suggesting, I think they're going to combine them. And, you know, like Agenor, they may not use him as Agenor or Balthamel, but I would totally be fine with Arangar and Osangar, like, being Forsaken. We don't really hear much about in their first forms. They die, and we're more interested in them in their second forms. That's true to the books. And in their second forms, they're more interesting. One embedded in the White Tower, in the Black Tower. And so get this. Here's my bid. Instead of using Agenor or Osangar, Mazrim Taim is that character.
So is Mazrim Taim going to be a Forsaken? Okay.
I think he will be.
Yeah.
I think they just...
It'll be Demon Dread.
because yeah, or maybe Demon Dread. But the thing is, what I'm saying is, I don't think they're going to want to have too many villains for us to get to know. So they're going to combine as many of them as they can.
Right. There are a lot of villains.
There is a lot.
There are too many.
Yeah. I don't know what they're going to do about the Aiel, like, villains, like, because they're not super compelling. Savannah and Kuladin, but we'll see. I just wonder.
Well, if they do have Kuladin, I hope they have, like, Matt and his fight on screen.
It's a TV show, Dusty. that scene's going to be the entire cold open. They'll have a cold open where they do this cool fight, and then afterwards Matt will be coming out, and people are like, "Did you just kill, like, the boss dude of their whole army?" And Matt's like, "Oh, it's nothing." And so then they can kind of do the tap on the book, like everyone else is like, "Did we just miss the coolest fight ever?" But we got to see it in a cold open.
Do you guys think that if they combine Gawain and
Galad,
is it Gawain and Galad into one character?
Yeah, that could do.
They'll still have that fight with like them/him with Matt when he beats both of them with the staff. That won't be as cool if there's one of them.
If it's 1v1. I think they'll make sure they might, and this is controversial, but they might drop them both.
Oh, you'd miss out on that awesome fight. I mean,
no, you won't.
They'll just make it another Orders or something.
Oh, yeah, that could happen.
They'll have a little squad of arrogant trainees, and those squad will take on Matt. And if they don't have them specifically by name, I make a prediction, and you can pay me a tenner when it happens. If they don't have Galad and Gawain by name, then what they're going to do is have Matt take out a bunch. It won't be 2. It'll be like 4.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
It'll be... Do you remember Galadriel in the scene in the marketplace?
In Rings of Power, yeah.
Just boss fights like 6 people.
Yeah.
And like specifically doesn't hurt them as well because she's just that awesome. They'll have Matt do that with a stick.
Oh, okay. That would be pretty cool. Yeah.
And hopefully they make him, like, barely conscious and, like, sick while he's doing
Yeah, and recovering from injuries.
Like just recovering from the dagger.
They're probably going to make him drunk or something.
No, but like, have you seen the new Matt? Because they're going to do a new Matt, aren't they? Because they have to.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't seen him yet, actually, no.
The pictures are out.
Okay.
But I'm wondering if they partially justify the new Matt with this is him after he's recovered from the dagger.
No, yeah, that could be the case.
Like, to try and retcon the fact that they've got a new actor and he looks so different. That is actually something that they could go for. Or they might just do what they do in James Bond and just have him turn up and say, "Hi, I'm Matt," and everyone treats him as if he is Matt. And
right.
then we just acknowledge, guys, it's an actor. Deal with it. And
yeah.
But
different movies and shows approach that differently for sure.
They do. Yeah. They do. Some of them do it very tongue-in-cheek, but some of them give like a whole reason for it. Some of them even change the character entirely. Like I remember Jadzia Dax with the symbiote, and they had a really good reason to change that character, and so they did, and they used an in-universe reason for her looking entirely different. I don't know. Have you ever watched the Mummy movies?
Yeah,
Yes.
I
So
haven't seen. I bailed on that new remake with Tom Cruise, but I like
no,
the
no.
original ones with Brendan Fraser.
The third one with Brendan Fraser, the actress who played his wife didn't come back for
Oh,
it, and
oh,
so
I forgot about that. Rachel
it
Wise,
was
right?
played by a different actress, and she starts by reading like her memoir, and it's all very fantastical. And someone's like, "Is this about you?" And she says, "I can categorically say I am not that woman."
Yeah,
and
that's
and we
clever.
all know that she is the same character, and she's just denying it so that they don't know that there's zombies and demons around. But it's
Right,
also
right.
funny to us because we know it's a different actress.
Yeah,
So
that's
they did
cool.
it with a joke. But yeah, there's all sorts of ways of doing it. I still think of the first time I watched the James Bond movies, and obviously I was too young to really watch them for the first time, but I was shown them in order because my family take James Bond seriously, and so you get to the George Lazenby movie where it's like for the first time the actor has changed, and they
Oh
have
yeah, I
they
remember
have the
that
cold
George
open.
Lazenby was in one of them, but I forgot that he was in between Sean Connery and Roger
Yes.
Moore. Yeah.
And Sean Connery and Sean Connery. Sean Connery returns for
Oh,
one
right,
after
right. Is
George,
that Diamonds
and
Are Forever or
Diamonds
something
Are
like that?
Forever, the
Yeah,
later
yeah.
one that Connery did when he came back for one more episode. But the thing that they do is they do the cold open, true Bond style, and then he says, "I'm Bond, James Bond," and he's just like literally, no, we're not mucking about. We're not pretending I'm someone different. I am him. That's it.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, so we're going that way, are we?" And he's like, "Yeah, we are." And they just didn't acknowledge it, and the fans rolled with it. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
and then ever since, the idea that you can be a new James Bond has been a thing.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, I think that's exciting, and I will keep watching the show, even though some of it annoys me. I see it as a separate
Hmm.
issue from the books,
Yeah,
and
yeah. I'll still keep
acknowledge,
watching the show too. I'm sure we'll all talk about
but
season 2. I hope that, I mean,
it's
like I
not
said,
arcane though, is it?
I still like it more than Rings of Power, and I'm
Oh
still
heck
gonna
yeah!
try out season 2 of Rings of Power too. So
The reason it's better than
hopefully.
Rings of Power is it's got a real storyline. Like they may
Hmm.
have screwed up the lore, but it's got a good story,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like you could have written a better storyline for Rings of Power, Andrew. Like
I bet I could
seriously,
have. Yeah,
you
I
have a
would have been.
proper.
Man, I would have loved to. I would have loved to do that. I would have had so much more action, and so many more of like the fantasy creatures from Tolkien's
Tolkien.
Legendarium and stuff that actually happens in. Wait, I don't remember. Is the show in the first or second age? Second
The
age?
show's set in the Second Age
Right, right. Yeah, there's lots
because
of
the ring
interesting
hasn't been
stuff that
made.
happens in Middle Earth in the
Yeah.
second age.
You know what? It's so interesting to see the movie you'd have made, the series you'd have made, and the series I'd have made.
Oh
The
yeah.
series I'd have made would have been almost entirely set on Numenor. Like, and the
Oh,
whole thing would
okay.
have happened on Numenor. It would have all been about this guy who arrives on Numenor. The stress with the elves is beginning to peak, and this guy is saved from the sea, and then bit by bit earns his rights to be a counselor. And then he learns his skills from Celebrimbor, who's working with the Numenorians to bring about a new age of togetherness. They're under attack from mysterious bad guy number 4, and I'll totally make them up if I have to. So there's a threat, but they're dealing with it, so I can get some action in, and then I would slowly have him, Game of Thrones style, maneuver himself into being in everyone's good books, and have him slowly become the boss and the confidant, and have him save the good guys. And then in series 2, like start having the rings made. What do the rings all do? And then some of the people who get rings are a little bit edgy, and some are like really good. And they try and unite the human clans, but they're all fighting, so you get loads of action sequences. And then series 3, man, that's when Sauron goes boom. So in the climax of season 2, they're all there using their rings, and they realize he's the bad guy, and they go and confront him like, Sauron, we got you. And he's like, no, I've got you. Bang. And the 9 guys who are all on their side just turn around and go, and all of the like people just panic, and it's a bloodbath, and everyone's just like, oh, damn, we lost. And I would leave the climax on Sauron's utter victory. And then season 3 would be, we need to get the elves and men together. Even though we've just been falling out in season 2, we've got to unite because otherwise we're toast. And they all unite and march against Sauron and fight him in the climax of season 3.
That would be good too, to keep it down to 3 seasons. That sounds like a much more exciting series than season 1 is already. Yeah.
I just think that Sauron and his like infinagling into becoming like a counselor and a powerful advisor, it would have been what I'd have spent series 1 on. Now, but obviously you're right. I'd have to get plenty of action in there, or some sex scenes or something to keep people's interest.
You can't put sex scenes in a Lord of the Rings show.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I'm not. I definitely don't mind.
Andrew, I don't believe that. I don't believe it for a second.
I like sex scenes and stuff, but
you do.
I want it to fit the mood of what it's supposed to be. Like, Lord of the Rings isn't supposed to be Game of Thrones.
My goodness, I love you, man. You're truly speaking my language. If even you understand that, then everyone must. It shows that you're really a book lover first. You love story top. Everything should be in service to the story.
Definitely.
But it should still be cool and exciting.
Of course,
not sex scenes, but romance.
Like the Lord of the Rings movie, not the Rings of Power show.
Well,
all
I don't
3
know
movies, I mean.
Apparently they're rebooting the movies as well, which I just
I heard that. Oh, and it's going to get the Star Wars treatment.
Why?
Dusty and I were talking about
because they just can't come up with new things, Dusty.
Yeah.
It's like Tolkien said, evil cannot create, it can only destroy what good has been.
You're not supposed to try to reboot Oscar-winning movies. That's just stupid.
and like people want to reboot, like someone's like, let's make a new Princess Bride. I'm like, please don't. Don't. And Kerry Elwes did a tweet, and he's like, it would be a shame to ruin it. There's such a rarity of perfect movies in this world. It would be a shame to ruin this one. And I'm like, yes, buddy. Yes. Anyway, I love The Wheel of Time. I'm really glad that there is a series because it is making people want to talk about Wheel of Time, and that allows me to talk to people about the books. I love that like everyday Negroes are reading the books. I'm like watching every one of those episodes.
Me too.
Even though the nerdy lady who talks about them is way too woke for me. But like she's always like, oh, things I kind of skip through when I read The Wheel of Time because I just can't handle it. I'm like, oh my goodness, go away. But I really am enjoying their reread and seeing what they are excited about, and then predicting things, and them contrasting with the show, which is cool as well. When they're going, oh, this is what happened. Like, why didn't they introduce medieval Mick Jagger in episode 1? I'm like, yeah, Tom should have been there. Dang straight.
Why would they have Perrin have this wife at the start of this?
Oh yeah, they're totally saying all of that, and it's interesting. It is very, very interesting.
For sure.
Yeah.
Good books. I told you we'd go over an hour.
Oh yeah, we did. So we're about at wrap up time.
I'm Tristram with a tangent. That's how I roll.
Anybody got any plugs?
Yeah.
Watch the coronation. It's happening.
Oh yeah. I saw what. I saw like the title of one person's video about that, and I thought, I don't care.
No,
I don't care.
It's very British. It's very British.
Yeah.
It's like watching the the presidential address that happens at the beginning of every. Like, I would never watch that. Oh my god! Is that
why you're wearing that shirt, because of the coronation?
Yeah, I've been wearing my Union Jack tie all week. I've been wearing my Union Jack belt buckle at work. I am a super patriot, man. I love being British.
Are you pro monarchy?
I'm pro monarchy. I'm pro castles. I'm pro flipping Britain. I love Britain. I love the things that make us us. And yeah, I'm a big fan of individual culture. I love it.
There's some people here in Canada who are a fan of the British monarchy too, because technically Canada is still a British colony.
You're not a British colony, but you are part of the Commonwealth.
Yeah, we're part of the British Commonwealth. Yeah. We're not a colony anymore.
Yeah,
we didn't have our own constitution until the 70s. But yeah, but I really don't care about the monarchy. I think monarchies in today's day and world are far too outdated.
It is interesting. It is interesting to think because, like, well, that's a whole different conversation. But it's a really interesting one to discuss because the idea of if you bring someone up to do a role their whole life, does that ideally prepare them, or should you just trust popular opinion? Because popular opinion has some huge benefits, but it has some huge downsides.
Certainly.
One of the things that is interesting about the royal family is that theoretically, they do not have to use popular opinion to get their position, which gives them an interesting role. One day, Andrew, because like of the way your mind works and how you are a critical thinker, I'd really like to talk to you about what you think about the House of Lords existing in Britain.
Sure.
Because we have unelected people who help make our laws. I think that would be very interesting.
I barely know anything about them, but yeah, that's true.
Oh, well, basically, we have just very quickly, we have two houses. One that's elected, and they have most of the power, House of Commons. And the House of Lords is made up of lifelong peers, and they are basically the check and the balance. They're the second house. So the law goes to them, and they can reject it, but they're only allowed to reject it 3 times. So it can be forced through, but they're not elected. And one of the things that is interesting there is because they're not elected, they're not beholden to the electorate. So they can stay in even if the electorate's current mood is going like this. So many people see them as an interesting balance, but other people hate that and say, we've got unelected people who are controlling our law. And these people shouldn't be allowed to do that in the modern era. Is that ethical when it's really been held over from a previous era? So just an interesting idea compared to the Senate and Congress in America, which obviously are both elected, but in different ways. Anyway. Sorry, Dusty.
That's interesting for sure, because there's like I don't think there's any such thing as a perfect government system, and I'm not 100% pro democracy, but I'm not totally for any particular government system. I would say.
But you see monarchy at least as outdated, and that's interesting.
Yeah.
And there's good reasons for that. And I think the vast majority, 90%, 95% of the world would agree. Probably 99% of the world would agree. Anyway, great talk on this slog chapter that wasn't a slog. It was a delight. You mentioned plugs, Dusty. People should check out my channel, Mindgasms, where most recently Dusty and I talked about Children of Hurin, which is one of Tolkien's posthumously published stories that there's a fragment of in the Silmarillion, and this is the fully fleshed out story that Dusty and I talked about that happens in the first age of Middle Earth, and it's about Hurin. Is it Hurin? Hurin, like Christopher Lee, because he does the audiobook. Turin fights his son Turin fights a dragon, and him and his sister get manipulated with magic powers by Glaurung the dragon, and there's lots of interesting stuff that happens. So check that out. And the next one that you and I were going to do, Dusty, we were going to talk about the 4th Dune book, God Emperor of Dune. So check that out pretty soon. I was going to ask you too, Dusty, could you send me the audiobook of that one, because I don't have it anymore.
I have to see if I have it, and if not, I got to check it out.
Okay, cool.
It might be somewhere on my computer. I have to take a look.
Okay. But people should check out Mindgasms, and of course Dusty and Tristram and I have talked about lots of fantasy books on there too. So people should check out that too.
All right, you got anything, Tristram? Nope.
No, I'm good. I've had a great time.
All right, great. And also, one of our next chats for our movie discussion, we're going to talk about Mad Max 2, as I don't like Mad Max 1, and it's not as good as Part 2. Well, it's not that I don't like it. I just don't think it's anywhere as good as Part 2 or Part 3. What is your opinion on that, Tristram?
I've never really compared them. I think 2 is probably the best of the Mad Maxes.
You think 2 is the best?
But I quite like Fury Road.
Yeah, that's the only one I've seen so far.
He's not
Like,
seen any of the originals.
No.
oh, now the thing is, I was really suspicious of Fury Road. I'm like, I went to it thinking, nah, but actually, I had a good time. I think it was fun and enjoyable and exciting and high paced, and that's what a Mad Max movie should be. So, yeah, I think 2's probably the best, in my
Cool.
opinion. But I'm not a Mad Max aficionado. It is not the Wheel of Time. Put it that way. I think I
True.
probably only watched the movies once.
Okay.
So I'm not like Dusty is probably much better suited.
I've seen them multiple times.
Yeah. The way you spoke made me think you'd seen them multiple times.
Yeah, I've seen them. I remember I watched them when I was a kid. I rewatched them a few times as an adult. Like Mad Max on the TV was like, oh, let's watch, because Mad Max would show on network television as a kid. Of course, it was heavily edited and censored, but you would be able to watch it. And there was nothing like it as far as like movies go.
No,
It's like there is nothing like those movies at all.
there is
Nothing
not.
really cool. They're very unique, but yeah, I wanted Andrew to see the originals because he'd never seen any of them. But I wanted to start at 2 because 1 is like really different from the rest of them.
Yeah.
It's not really, because 1, Mad Max isn't like a loner, and he's not some weird loner out in the wilderness. He's like he has a wife and stuff. I was like, this is kind of strange, and the world isn't quite post-apocalyptic at that point. It's like getting there, but it's not.
In the first one?
Yeah, the first one is not. Well, if he's part of a police force in the first one, he's actually like the Interceptor, which is the name of his car, was an actual interceptor in the first movie. So he was a law enforcement agent. But yeah, the first movie is weird. If you want to check that out later, you can, but it's not something I want to watch again.
It doesn't sound that good.
That's okay. Fans of the Mad Max franchise like it. I just don't really like it that much.
Okay.
But part 2 is excellent. Part 3 is excellent. Fury Road, I think, is also excellent. So I wanted to check those out. But yeah, that's going to be our next movie chat. Our next Wheel of Time chat will probably come sooner than later, because I have been spending a lot more time actually reading. I think I'm like halfway through the 3rd part already. So
cool.
Probably within a month we'll do the next one.
Cool. Oh yeah, Tristram. I was also going to mention sometime soon, maybe sometime in the next few weeks or so. Do you want to talk about the Heroes?
Oh yeah, I'd love to do Heroes. Yeah.
Sweet. Second standalone Joe Abercrombie first law book after the first trilogy.
Yeah.
So.
And we already did A Little Hatred, didn't we? So.
Yes, we did A Little Hatred.
No. That's the first
cold.
one in
Best Served Cold.
Yeah.
Best Served Cold. Yes.
I think A Little Hatred is the first one in the second trilogy.
That's bait.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite line from Fury Road.
What?
That's bait.
Oh yeah.
All right.
How do they say that? You will be coated in chrome or something like that.
That'd be quite a painful process.
Well, they say something about chrome. Go with chrome.
Well, I know in order to make chrome, the piece of whatever they have to turn into chrome has to be like electrolyzed.
Okay.
So they would be like getting shocked, and then I don't know. They'd have to pour molten metal and then shock the person to get chrome.
Ouch.
Yeah. Let's not.
All right. So yeah, we'll probably reconvene sooner on Andrew's Heroes than we will for Wheel of Time.
Okay. Just clue me in when you want to do it.
For
All right,
sure.
great. So you guys take it easy. Thanks for joining the stream. And everybody
now.
out there, like and subscribe. Smash the
Smash.
Smash that
subscribe
like
button.
button.
Smash the like button. Try not to hurt your tablet or smartphone by doing that. Don't literally do it.
Yeah.
But go ahead and hit those things and follow us, and then follow Andrew's channel as well. He has a lot of good discussions there as well. But thank you guys, everybody. Have a great day.
Adios.
Ciao.
Till next time, everyone.